everyone, and welcome back. Welcome back to a new episode of Developer Waypoints. This is Season 3, and we are currently covering our new Android SDK. Richard kicked us off with Episode 1 2 weeks ago, and we are back with Episode 2 of Season 3. Richard, what are we covering today on Episode 2? What's our plan?
Last week we basically just figured out how to get started. We looked at the two ways you can get the SDK integrated into your application. The easy way, which is where you just go to GitHub, you look at the examples, you throw in the library, you throw in your credentials, you're good to go. Or the slightly harder but still fairly easy way where you either build an app from scratch or you integrate the map view into your existing application. And that means we're now ready to start with slightly more interesting stuff. And today we're going to look more at the map, and we're going to look at how do we change the style of the map. And we're going to look at the camera. And we're going to look at how do I move the camera around? What are the capabilities of the camera? And so on. Nice.
Sounds awesome. A side note, apologies for the stomping sounds of little feet running above me. That's just kind of what happens. This is the situation that we're dealing with. So
this is not home office hour. That's ours. That's a different show, but we're still doing this from home.
Yes.
So
yes.
There we are.
I have to hear it, so you have to hear it too. So in case you're new here or you've been here and you don't know what Developer Waypoints is specifically. Developer Waypoints is a live coding series that we pick a topic and choose something to develop over a season of episodes. So we have 4 to 5 planned, possibly more, all diving into our Android SDK. So that's what our season 3 is. And Richard's
about
smiling.
3 minutes ago, I told Peter this is probably going to be longer than I anticipated.
Yeah,
he's used to that from me, but we're still figuring out the final number of episodes. But I really want to, at the end of this, I really want to pull this together and build like a really nice sort of semi-useful app builder on an actual use case that pulls all of the individual things we're learning in the episodes, pulls that together. I think that would be cool, and I think that needs an extra episode or two.
I'm into it. So I'm going to green light. I'm going to green light more episodes.
Yes.
You're being renewed.
My producer has said yes.
So in case you're wondering, we're live right now. So if you are in chat and you have any questions, you want us to dive a little deeper into something, you want us to follow up on something, throw it into chat, ask us a question. I am here sitting to put Richard on the spot, to ask him questions that you have. I'll ask him questions that I have that are probably not very technical, but just ask him questions. So I am here, Dev, in chat. Richard, I don't know if Richard will talk in chat. You're Süselsaurus in chat, right? You can say hi. There you go. He is.
I have a little sword icon. I like that I have a little sword icon.
He's a mod. He's a mod as well as a participant. So I think we covered everything so far. Just as a side note, if you're a general viewer of our channel, if there's a feature on Twitch called clipping. If something happens, like Richard spills his tea again, he offends a bunch of people, he has got a full cup of tea, so he's ready for today's episode. You can use a little clip feature in Twitch to highlight something that happened, whether it's interesting to you, something that you didn't know, or something funny that happened. You can use that feature to clip, and if we end up using that clip on our Twitter, if we use that, or if we save it to our channel, I'll give you a little VIP badge. So I don't know if Lalahan's here or MB Hirsch is here. They can type in, show what the VIP badge looks like. Anyway, that's it from me. Let's get into the code, Richard.
All right.
Tell me what's going on here.
Dinosaur mode.
Okay. Straight to dinosaur mode. We're there.
Cool. Not
yes.
A dinosaur this week, but just as old as a dinosaur.
Okay.
So, very cool.
But MB Hirsch is here, and we see his VIP
his little
status.
VIP badge.
Yep.
A little shiny diamond. Yes, it points out that's a turtle. That is correct, Michael. It is a turtle. It's a very, very old, extinct turtle, but it is a turtle. Turtles are also cool. Maybe not quite as cool as dinosaurs, but still cool.
I
like
thought
turtles.
I thought everybody always says that turtles are dinosaurs. Is that just alligators?
That I think if I get into this, we'll fill the whole hour. So
Okay.
let's shelve that question for home office
That's
hours
fair.
later in the week, and then we can talk about turtles dinosaurs relations.
Okay. Yep.
And
Okay.
the Triassic. Okay, so I think I'm just gonna fire up Android Studio. As a reminder, last time. Oh, by the way, you should while this loads, you should tell everyone your exciting turtle story, Peter.
My exciting turtle story. I let Richard know that I actually used to have a turtle when I was a kid, and it ran away. And that's not even a joke. That actually happened.
That's it. That's the story.
That's it.
I really
That's the
like
story.
It.
I was
don't
really
know
sad
what
about
went
it.
for
So
the
thanks for making me
turtle, but-
bring it up again, Richard.
Okay, so last week.
Wait, hold on a second. Hold
I'm
on a
holding
second.
on. Okay.
Lalahan always comes in
God.
with great.
Oh God. Okay.
She said that we should shelve that discussion about turtles. Okay.
Ah.
All right. Keep going. Keep going. Just ignore
But
it.
I have now lost the will to live. So how are we going
keep
to
going.
do the rest of this? I think, Peter, you'll have to take over.
I can't do it.
Okay. So last week, we essentially built a basic app with a map in it. And we are, in fact, starting off with that exact code. So if you've done that yourself, you can just use that code. Or essentially what this is the Hello Map application from our GitHub SDK examples that I haven't really modified, except for one little difference. If you go into the style editor here, you'll see that I have added a button on top of the map, and that's called style. And if I click on that, I have an on-click method, change style. I think I should quit this. I forgot to do that. Let me quit some other things that I forgot to quit before other messages pop up.
Well, while you close, are you planning to upload this code or feature code to our GitHub?
Yes, in fact, that is the plan. Once we're done today, I will go and upload this version of the code, because that's the first time we've actually made changes that will go beyond the standard examples in the example section on GitHub. I will actually upload this to GitHub and then probably do this every week. I will probably be adding to this project and then change that every week, and then you can download that and start off wherever you like.
Perfect. So I'll link that GitHub at the end of the episode. And if you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, it'll be in the description. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So where was I? Yeah, we added a little bit of a button, and we had it an on-click change style method here. And if we go into our main activity Java, we remember all the things we did last time. I've taken the example from GitHub here, so we're now even handling permissions properly, which I conveniently skipped over last time. We're loading a map scene to see the basic map, and then we have on pause, on resume, and destroy. And then the only thing that's really different from what we had last week is the change style method.
Richard, I think I realized you ended your screen share on that process of closing things.
Oh my God, I did, because I'm
it's okay.
Professional.
The best thing is that it just kind of saves the last frame that it had of your screen, so it looks like nothing happened. We can just pretend.
You should have messaged me privately.
That's okay.
Nobody would have noticed. That's okay. Peter will just have to call me real quick on a certain communications program again that I've restarted, and then.
Technical difficulties.
We're answering this.
And
we're sharing the screen again. Start sharing. And I'm going to scroll furiously up and down. If you can see it moving, we're back.
Flawless.
We're back alive.
Got it.
Very nice. Cool. So, like I said, we have a change style method here. If we fire up the emulator, we'll actually see, we got a map here. We got a button at the top. Doesn't do anything right now. I can click that furiously and nothing happens. that's okay because it's an empty method. The only thing I've done is I've switched, I think, the default position of the map over from Berlin, where we were last year, to New York, because we're going to move the map around a bit, the camera around a bit, and that always looks cooler if you have a lot of tall buildings in the way. So that's why I've moved it over to New York. That's always a very charismatic city to look at on a map. And yeah, so the first thing we want to do is we want to change the map style a little bit. So this is what we're seeing here is kind of the default style. We haven't really manually set a style, though it's not quite correct. As we can see up here, we've technically already set a map style. If we remember, we have to load a map scene in order to actually see something on the map. And we're doing this here in our load map scene method that we created last time. So we're getting the map view. And from the map view, we get the map scene. And there is a method load map scene. And in fact, we're passing into it a map scheme here. And there are two ways to change the map scheme. And one of them is by putting in one of the default styles. And in fact, if I'm just going to go do a little dot here, we'll actually see a list of default styles here: gray day, gray night, normal day, normal night, and satellite. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go in here, and first we are going to create maybe an integer called style counter, because what I want to do is I want to keep pressing that button, that style button, and then switch over through multiple styles in kind of a little circle. So you can keep clicking it and it keeps changing over and over again. And for that, we got to know how often we've clicked. So that's a simple counter variable. And then we're going to say private map scheme. I'm going to call that scheme, and we're going to say map scheme dot normal day. That's the default value. That's in fact what we're seeing already when we just start our app right now, because that's what we're using here. And then we're going into our change style method, and we're basically saying, you know, you've clicked the button, so we're increasing the style counter. And also, if I think we're going to want to do 3 different steps or 4 different steps. So if the style counter is 4, in that case, we want to say style counter equals 0. So that way we can go in a circle. Once we've stepped through the styles we have, it'll start over from the beginning. And then we can just really repeat that and say if style counter equals 0, we will say scheme equals map scheme normal day. And then we're going to repeat that a couple of times and say equals 1, equals 2, equals 3, and kind of step through some of the other styles. Satellite seems like the one that's going to be most different. Mm-hmm. And then we have, what else we have? We have, let's pick normal night. And let's pick normal day.
We got normal day twice.
I wanted
gray day.
Gray day. That's what I wanted exactly.
It's the band that was before Green Day formed.
It's also an app description of the weather outside. So you can't see this. So this is a map for bad weather,
mm-hmm. Or just Seattle.
And then now we've got this. I guess it's. Though again, I've been to Seattle multiple times, and the weather was always really nice. Mm-hmm. So I don't really believe this whole Seattle has bad weather.
We try to trick people into thinking that it's actually not just great here.
That's my. I don't know. My conspiracy theory is that weather in Seattle is really nice. It's just that housing costs are so high, you don't want anyone else to move there, so you pretend it's gray and miserable, so people stay away. That's my personal conspiracy theory.
I'm guessing you didn't really come in the winter time.
I was there in November once.
Okay.
It was fine.
Okay.
It was fine. It wasn't much rain or anything. It was actually not too bad. Again, like I feel like the bad weather is overhyped there. Anyway, so we're doing the thing we basically did up here anyway. So we're getting our map view, and from the map we were getting a map scene, and we're calling the method load scene, and you can see there's two different versions, and we'll actually look at the other one as well. But for now, we'll call this one, and we'll say we want scheme as our map scheme, which is what we've just set up here. And then we have to basically go new map scene load callback. It's conveniently all written for us. And then we'll basically say if map error equals null, we can potentially do something here. We won't do anything now. And then else we'll do like error handling, and we can do that later too. So in theory now, if I click the button, it should start off switching to, it should go +1, it should switch to map satellite. If I click again, it should switch to normal night, then gray day, then start again with normal day. And then we're just loading a map scene with that scheme. So let's see if I typed everything right, and let's fire up the emulator again, install this, take a sip of tea.
You have to install it each time?
No, not really. You can basically like this thing up here basically just allows you to take the changes and apply the changes and just restart the activity. So there's not a whole install going on every time. So it doesn't take so long. You could install it new every time, but you don't have to. Gotcha. So we've got the style button up here, and I'm going to click it once. And satellite imagery appears. It actually works. I typed everything.
That's what we were supposed to see.
Well, yes, but I want to remind you the last time I got lost for 10 minutes in like brackets and parentheses and so on. I feel that we're off to a good start here.
This is a learning experience for everyone, Richard. This is for you,
mostly for me.
Anybody watching.
We'll click it again, and we'll see we get a night map. Normal night. So this is essentially a map that's optimized for viewing when it's dark. Like if you have the normal day map and you're looking at it when it's dark outside, it'll just blast light into your eyes and blind you. So there's a nice map for you to look at during the night. And then there's a gray day version, and you can see that removes a lot of the colors around streets. So on the normal map, you'll have larger streets in different colors than the standard streets, and it's kind of a bit of a reduced style here. And then you click again, and you can actually see the colored streets popping back in again. That's the normal style, and we can now keep clicking this over and over again, and the styles change. So that was actually pretty easy way to set some of the standard map schemes that we have. Now, this is based on vector tiles, and when you have vector tiles, that means you can really customize everything on the map. And this is something that's supported by the SDK. And you can create your own complete custom style and then load this. And that's something we're going to try next, because I was going to
ask that next, Richard.
Damn it.
You're ahead of it.
Just waited, just taken a sip of tea and let you ask the smart question.
So what about adding your own style?
I'm glad you asked that, Peter, because that's actually the thing I was referring to when we looked at the other method overload here a little bit earlier. To do that, maybe we want to go and add another button. So I'm just going to copy paste the button view here. Use that, and then say, let's call that load style, because we're going to be loading a custom style. That method doesn't exist yet, and we're going to just call it custom on the button text. And then we're going to create a method for that. And we're going to say public void, what did we say? We said load style. Going to pass the view into it, and then we're doing this. Now, To do this, we first actually need to provide the custom styling. So let's open up our Explorer for a second, and we actually see we have a zip file here which contains the relevant files. I'm going to unzip this real quick, extract all. I can open this these JSON files here. For example, I can do it like this. Open that up in Visual Studio Code. Yeah, I mean, if I save this now, it would automatically format it into something more readable. I'm going to do that. So you can write this by hand, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. There is, in fact, a really cool style editor that we're working on that's coming soon. That'll actually allow you to do sort of a WYSIWYG style editing of the maps. It's currently still in closed beta. It's hopefully going to come out soon, and that will really allow you to kick your map style game up to the next level. When that's out, we'll probably do an episode on it, possibly home office hours, or maybe if it comes out quickly enough towards the end of this Waypoint series, might be another episode that you have to greenlight. Who knows? But for the moment, we'll just show how you can load the scene and have a look at the fact that this really changes the styling completely.
That might fit into our Here Expedition series, Richard.
It might. That would actually be a cool Here Expeditions episode. So
you just signed up Ray for more episodes.
I mean, I'm always happy to do that. Like make work for other people that I don't have to do. That's great. I'm always up for that. So I copied those files, and then you have to go into your app, source, main, and then you have to create an assets folder, and then just paste that in there. And that's with all assets. You essentially need to use the asset manager. So we'll just go and say string file name, and well, I guess I gotta look what that file name actually is. I think it's this. So we'll put this in here and say JSON, because that's how it ends. So we got a file name here, and then we need ourselves an asset manager. Asset manager is basically the Android tool that allows you to load just raw assets, things that are not part of the resources area here, just raw assets from your Android app. And since these are just files, we have just JSON files. They're essentially raw. Sorry, it should be get assets. And then we're basically saying we have to do a try block because we're loading something from the file system. And then we'll have to catch an IO exception. Let's call that E very imaginatively. And again, do error handling. I'm not trying to discourage you from doing error handling, but that's really not the interesting part. Just as with the permissions from the last episode, I don't think you want to watch me write too much error handling code. So I'll just comment that in there. Hopefully nothing will go wrong, and if something will go wrong, you'll find you'll be watching.
We'll
me
have
write
no
more
idea.
Error handling code real quickly. Okay. And then basically all you need to do is say asset manager.open file name. And then we can just do what we've done before. In fact, I'm going to take this, I'm going to copy it so we don't have to type this all again. The only difference we're really doing here, we're now putting in like, sometimes IDEs are too eager to write code for you. So we'll just do this. We'll just say a load file name, and that should load the file name of the custom style that we have created instead of the preset map scheme. And those are basically the two versions of load scene that you have. One is a preset map scheme, and the other is hopefully a specific custom map style that you've created. So we're going to save this, and let's see if that actually works. Just pushing this. Okay, we have a second button. That's encouraging. We're pushing the second button, and look at that. It didn't explode. So you'll see it's a very different map style. It's kind of a slightly sepia toned, I think quite pleasant to look at thing. Kind of similar to the day gray thing in that it
simplified.
In that it's simplified, because exactly, there's no colored roads or anything. Let's see what happens if I click on style here. We're going back to the standard styling. One of the things you'll notice too is that when I switch a style, didn't happen now. Why didn't it happen?
What were you?
I guess depending on how you could see it here very nicely, depending on whether
it fades between, right?
Exactly, and it depends on whether he has the tiles cached, or sometimes it happens the tiles load. This is an emulator thing. Obviously, it wouldn't necessarily happen on a real device because the emulator is pretty slow. You can see the frame rate is not what you'd have on a real device, but it fades really nicely between the styles. Yeah, it didn't work here right now. I don't know quite know. I think this is an emulator thing, but right to the extent where you sometimes see like the name of New York just gets subtly smaller because the font size on the new map style is a little smaller. I think that looks really cool in action when you kind of switch between the map styles on an actual device. You can sometimes see it here, but I think it would be very awkward for me to hold like my device up to the camera. So we'll do it with we'll have to do with make do with the emulator. That's encouraging. Yes, thank you. Okay, so like I said, how to build these styles. Apparently, we've just signed up Ray to do an episode on the Here Map Style Editor when it's out of beta. I'm personally very excited about that because you can create really anything that your heart desires here, from something that looks really, really cool to something that like subtly adjusts to your brand design and all these sort of things. Nice. Okay, so we have changed the look of the map a little bit. Now we want to change how we look at the map.
As what a great timing of moving on to your second topic, because we're at the halfway point, Richard.
Well, I have basically two topics and a little bit of a backup, so okay. I feel like this is going pretty well time-wise. Yeah. I'm kind of proud of myself here.
I'm proud of you too. Just as a reminder for all of our viewers in chat, if you have any questions at any point, throw them into chat, and I'll relay them to Richard, and we can go from there.
Now, I don't have any questions, but I do have cookies that my wife made. I'm just showing those, in the camera to make you envious. I can share them with you.
Thank you, Richard, because I didn't actually have time to have breakfast this morning, so.
I'm glad I can make you. No, wait, that doesn't work. I'm sorry. Here's what I'll do. I'll try to end on time so you can have your breakfast without delay.
Yeah, Michael's giving you an A for time management, and then also commenting on your tea and cookies. Very sophisticated.
I always Android feel like whenever Michael says something, I can feel like he's trying to rile me up somehow. I don't quite see his game here yet, but we still have half an hour. We'll see where he takes it. Okay, so
well, you haven't offended anybody yet, so. You've actually offended me. I haven't had breakfast. You've offended hungry people.
There you go. Offended
people on
hungry
diets.
people. I offended hungry people. That's good. So I've got that check mark done as well. I've offended someone. So we can go back to some coding. I'm gonna just add another button. We like buttons, and we're going to call that button just camera, and we're going to call the onClick method change camera. And that gets red squiggles because it doesn't exist yet. I would say we'll close these to make things a little neater, and then create public void change camera, passing a view as always. Green squiggles because he understands that camera is probably not the word I was looking for. Here we go. Okay, so let me take a quick look at my notes. This is going to get slightly more complicated, but we're basically going to start with a similar thing where we're saying private int camera counter. And then we're setting up a whole bunch of other things that we're going to need. We're going to start with a set of geocoordinates, which is going to be camera coordinates. This is essentially camera coordinates. This is essentially what the camera will look at on the map, the look at point. Then we're going to do a double bearing in, let's call it bearing in degrees to make it easier to understand what the value is. This will be the bearing of the camera. We'll do a double tilt in degrees. This will be the tilt of the camera. And then we'll do a map camera orientation update. This is actually camera orientation. This is actually the class that'll take those two as a parameter and encapsulates those two values. That'll give us ultimately the orientation of the camera, both tilt and bearing. And then also we need to have a double distance in meters. This will tell us later on how far away the camera is from the map, or the look at point to be precise.
We got a new follower, IMAO HD. Thank you so much for your follow. Welcome to our channel. Welcome to our community.
Thank you. Cool. So then we're going down into the change camera, and basically we're doing the same thing here. We're saying camera counter plus plus, and again, I think we're gonna do something like 4. We can change that as well. If camera counter equals 4, we're setting camera counter to 0 again, so we can have that nice little circle around. And then we
got some questions in chat. Okay. If you want to finish this.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Difference between bearing and tilt. Yeah, I'll be explaining that, and I'll be drawing my famous incomprehensible serial killer squiggles on the screen to hopefully convey the idea of how the camera works.
Mm-hmm. Make some vaporwave again.
Yeah, I gotta make sure I pick the right colors again. Mm-hmm. And then still very proud of my vaporwave moon banana that I drew in office hours a couple of weeks ago. And then Destroyer 361 is asking thoughts on using Flutter. I have not used Flutter yet, but I want to. And obviously we have a new beta SDK for Flutter around. I wouldn't be surprised if we'll maybe do a whole season of Waypoints on that once it's out of beta.
Yeah.
I would also not be surprised if I'm going to be doing a home office hours later in the month around.
Just a little quick investigation.
Where I basically will try to build my very first Flutter app with our SDK. It'll be a little bit ad hoc because I don't know Flutter or Dart or anything, so I have to learn that too. But that can be fun learning together. Mm-hmm. Maybe it'll even happen on Thursday. I have 2 things I want to do: either the Flutter thing, or I want to look into the map clustering thing we talked about in the last home office hours. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those. I'll figure that out probably 2 hours before the home office hours goes live, the way I usually do. But stay tuned on Twitch. We'll very likely have some So a little bit of Flutter content soon, and then later in the year, probably a lot more around that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very excited that we have a Flutter SDK now.
Yeah, that's really cool. So if in case you're wondering what home office hours is, we stream every Thursday morning. We stream every Thursday at 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, and that's 5:30 p.m. CEST. I don't have any other time zones memorized, so you can extrapolate from those two. If you're somewhere in between west coast of U.S. and Germany, you could figure it out.
To be honest, I'm hopeless when it comes to time zones, so I probably couldn't figure it out. But that's what the internet is for. You can Google that sort of stuff. So I'm now just setting some default values for the variables I created up there. So they're basically, every time we click the change camera button, they get reset to this, and then we can only change the ones that we want to for each button press. These coordinates I've set here, again, they're kind of at the southern tip of Manhattan, sort of basically they're the same as up here. So that won't change at all. Same bearing in degrees, we'll do 0. We'll look at what that means later on. Tilt in degrees equals 0. We'll also look what that means. And we're setting up a camera orientation. Camera orientation is a new camera orientation update. And in that we say bearing in degrees, comma, tilt in degrees. And that should be good. And then we also set distance in meters, and we set that to 10 kilometers, which again is what we had up here. So that doesn't really change.
Okay.
So I think if we click that button now, nothing would change. So I'm going to quickly do that, move that to 5,000 meters to just see if the whole thing works at all.
eDestroyer says Flutter's somewhat similar to Java, so you'll pick it up probably pretty quickly.
That's good. That's good, because the reason we're doing Android, not iOS or anything else first, is I do know Android a little bit, and I do know Java reasonably well. So this is what I'm most comfortable with, which is good for Waypoints. And then in home office hours, I tend to do the stuff I'm less comfortable with, and we can kind of learn together and make mistakes together, and that is fun too. But I'm actually not going to do that. I'm going to set that back because it wouldn't work, because I haven't actually changed the camera look at yet. So in order to set the camera, we're once again going to our map view, and the map view has a camera object, and we can get that through get camera. And then the camera has a method called look at, and that really defines how the camera looks at the scene. And you can in fact see there's several method overloads here. There's one with a geobox. We'll look at that last. There's one with coordinates and a double. The double is for distance. There's one with just coordinates, and then there's one with coordinates, an orientation, and a double. And let me see which order I wanted to do this in first. I think the first one we want to do, I think we'll just, in fact, what we're going to do is we are always going to start off with, look at, with the one at the bottom, and then just fill in, look at in degrees. We're starting with camera coordinates. Then we're doing camera orientation, and then we're saying distance in meters. I probably should have called that camera distance in meters for consistency, but who cares? So we set all of these standard values, and then in order to actually tell the camera to look at something based on these values, we call the look at method on the camera. Now we can maybe do the little if loops where we say if camera counter equals 0, and we do this, and then else if camera counter equals 1, do this, and then else if this is riveting content, camera counter equals 2,
Else if,
and then we have a last else if for else if camera counter equals 3. And then if it's 4, it gets reset. So we have those 3 things. And in fact, for all of them, we probably want to call this method this way. And then we can, in front of all of them, just change the parameters that we want to change.
Okay.
And so basically, let's start with, I guess, 0 should not really change anything because that's kind of the default. So that's what we want to look at. So we'll just accept all of the default parameters and just call the camera look at fun. And then for 1, what we maybe want to change is the bearing in degrees. And we'll set that to 90. And now if we call this, it should actually work a little bit, and something should change when we push the button once. Let's see if I did everything right. So the camera button has shown up. That's encouraging. We'll push the camera button, and nothing happens. So that is not encouraging.
Hey, this would have been unprecedented if
we just gotten through this whole thing with everything just working.
I don't think anybody would believe you that you've actually coded this live. Everybody would just think that you're just have a video pre-captured of everything working perfectly.
And I figured out while you were talking and giving me some time, I figured out what went wrong. I set the bearing in degrees, but I didn't actually change the camera orientation object. So that couldn't possibly have worked. So we'll actually just say camera orientation is like new camera orientation update. And then we say bearing in degrees, tilt in degrees.
Okay.
So let's try this again.
Reload.
Yeah, it's happening.
There you go.
It just takes a little while.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Got to sign in.
No, that's not it. It's not working. I'm just going to hit that button again. Let's see what happens. There we go. Okay, let's click on camera. Fingers crossed. Boom, it's changed.
We did it.
Okay, now we got to figure out what actually changed. So I'm going to get my little Vaporwave drawing pen tool out. Move that to the right here. So if you think about, no, wait, that's way too big a line. That's like, nope, I'm going to go for this. Let's try this again. So if you think of a coordinate system and you think this is north, this is west. No, wait, it's not. Oh, God.
Whoa.
This is east.
If you're looking at it backwards, then yes, it's something.
Fun fact, I work for a mapping company. Northwest, east, south. Then what you have per default is bearing 0. In other words, the camera looks north. And if you change, this looks more like a D. I'm going to make this something that looks even less like a 0. And then if, for example, if you want to start rotating the camera, for example, here in this direction, then you would end up with a bearing in degrees of 45, or we've now set it to 90 degrees. So this would be 90 degrees. So really, this is just the angle. The bearing in degrees is just the angle by how much off the camera is turned from north clockwise. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing is, I'm going to clear this again. When you look at this on the map, I need to click this a couple of times for this to happen. It really looks like the map turned counterclockwise by 90 degrees, but you haven't really turned the map. What you've done is you've turned the camera. That's kind of an important thing to keep in mind as you're doing this. So it feels like you're turning the map, but what you're actually doing is you're manipulating the camera. So very simple example, we can do this again, and we can set it maybe to 180 degrees. Start this again. We add it just so we have another attempt at this.
MB Hirsch says it's also the same as compass direction.
Yes, that's correct.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't just pretend he actually works for a map company. He understands his stuff. That's great. And you can see now it looks like we flipped the map on its head, but in reality the map is still the same. We just turned the camera around 180 degrees.
I think that's a good distinction to make, that we're moving ourselves, not the map. The map stays.
Correct. And we'll see later on how that makes sense, because we can move the camera in other ways too. So what we can do next is we can now look at the tilt value. So we have tilt in degrees, and we can set this maybe to 45. And then you can just copy that line, set up the map orientation object again, fire that up. Click the camera button once. This flips it on its head. Click the camera button again, and the effect is subtle, but what you'll actually see is that the map now looks like it's tilted. And again, what's happened is we haven't tilted the map, but we have tilted the camera. I'm going to start drawing again. So you kind of, wait, move this down. So imagine this is kind of the map laying flat, and you have your little camera up here, and it looks kind of straight down. This is the default. This is a tilt of nothing. Now, if we tilt the camera by 45 degrees, it's maybe kind of something like this. Then we actually need to redraw the camera up here, and it would look like, wrong color. It would kind of look like this. Right, so you've tilted the camera by 45 degrees. What's important though is that's not quite right, because we haven't changed the look at point. So it's still looking at the same point it did before. And you can kind of see this too, because you end up seeing, as you tilt more and more, you end up seeing less and less of New York and more of like Brooklyn and the sea down here, because we're still looking at the southern tip of New York. So if I go back to drawing, what actually happened is that the camera ended up being more like this, right? The lookup point changed, but I tilted it 45 degrees down. So
okay.
It's kind of here.
Got a question from eDestroy again. Can the camera movement be animated?
There is currently not yet a feature in there where it just does that automatically for you, but you can do that yourself programmatically. So if you want to do camera movements, you can do that. There is actually in the documentation for the Light SDK. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick.
And a side note, Skazi tried to share a link in chat. We have a Nightbot that blocks links, so if you have something that you want to share that could be helpful, you can direct message me. You can whisper on Twitch, and I'll vet it to make sure it's appropriate, and then I'll post it. just in case.
Just playing it safe here. So if you go into the guide here, let me see, camera tutorial, animate to a location. So this is currently only in the Light SDK, but the camera I think works the same in the Light SDK as the Explorer SDK. So there is a little tutorial down here on how you can kind of manually animate the camera. I'm gonna, how do I send this to Peter? Because no, wait, I'm a moderator. Maybe
yeah,
I can
do it yourself.
Yes, unlimited power. Okay, so you can just click on that link and go directly to the link in the documentation, and there's a little bit of instruction how you can manually animate that. I expect that hopefully at some point that some automatic animations where you can just say, I want to move from A to B and please animate that in a certain way will appear, but it's not yet in there. But there's info on how to do it. You're welcome.
Nice.
Cool. Of course, I've, as usual, lost my train of thought. So another interesting thing to consider when you're doing this is that how the rotation works. So let's imagine this is the camera, and Peter, you need to tell me whether this is actually reasonably visible.
I can see it.
Yeah, you can see it. It's my garage door opener. We can pretend this is the camera. This is the front of the camera, right? So this is kind of it looking down by default. And now we kind of tilt it by 45 degrees. And now the camera is like this. Don't move back because look at point is the same. Mm-hmm. So when you now get change the bearing, you might think you're rotating the camera now, right? So you might think it moves like this and this, but that's why it's called bearing and not rotation. Mm-hmm. So what actually happens is the camera will rotate like this, kind of look around. That's another kind of important thing to sort of have in mind as you're playing around with the camera. And I think so. What we can also do is maybe tilting always looks nice with 3D buildings. So maybe we should get a little closer in, and that means we can actually look at the distance in meters parameter and set that to 2 kilometers for our second camera option here instead of 10,000, and get that going. Okay, that's flipped, that's tilted, and now you can kind of see how you can do nice things with tilting, and you get all the 3D buildings. And obviously, you can still manually kind of zoom in and rotate all those kind of things by hand, but you can control the camera programmatically as well.
There you go.
Cool.
Michael. Michael says that's one of the fanciest looking garage remotes I've ever seen. I was going to say the exact same thing.
Really? It's like, what? It's just the garage door opener.
That does not look like that looks like some type of fancy remote or something. My garage door opener is the classic flat with the button that you have to click all the way in. The one that like clips onto your a sun visor.
This is the first garage door opener I've ever had in my life, so I guess I'm just missing comparison.
Fancy.
Here. So yeah, okay, it's a fancy. So I didn't know that. So you just made me feel really good about my garage door opener, which is something I never thought I'd say. The last thing I want to show is we saw this earlier. There is also for the get camera look at. There's an override that actually an overload that actually says, no, it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? I think we got to go back here. There's one with a geobox in it, and that is something I still want to look at before we close this out. I'm going to open the browser again and kind of go to wego.here.com. It's kind of in New York. So oftentimes you'll have kind of a use case where you want the camera to look at a specific area of the map. And this is a feature that's kind of built in. So let's pick a spot here, some park, Tompkins Square Park. Doesn't mean anything to me, but we can get the coordinates for this. The southwest corner of it, put that here temporarily. And then we can go back, and then we can go and get maybe the northeast corner of it, get those coordinates in here. And then we can create a geobox, call that camera box, all that camera box, and say new geobox. And that takes 2 geo coordinates. So we're going new geo coordinates, comma, new geo coordinates. And then we're just going to copy paste those 2 things in there. And then we have a bounding box around that part. And then we can tell the look at function, camera box. And I think we also need to put in camera orientation. We can use the default for that. You'll notice there is no zoom here because obviously if you look at a specific area of the map, it'll automatically zoom it to that area. Mm-hmm. So let's give that a try.
And just as a warning, we got like 3 minutes left.
And this is literally the last thing I want to show. So if I didn't mess up the code on this one, we're done. You can do the outro. You can do shameless plugs. Boom!
You didn't mess
Camera
up the code.
centered on Tompkins Park. So well, this feature comes in useful too in the next episode when we'll do markers and objects. We'll use it a bunch there. So that's something that starts to tease the next episode as well. And
Nice.
I'm done.
You did it.
Yay! On
Great
time
job,
and everything.
All right. Do you have anything else that you want to show from your screen, or should we go back to the studio?
Yeah, we can go back to the studio.
All right. All right. Great work today, Richard. You successfully walked us through episode 2.
Impressed you with my fancy garage opener.
That's my takeaway from this episode, is that I need to up my garage door opener game. So, in case you came in late or you're watching this after the fact, our past episodes will be available on YouTube after about a week. They usually go up after a week. I can actually share episode 1 in case you missed the beginning of season 3. Oh man, I didn't double check to make sure.
I'm checking it for
you.
you.
Yep. That's right.
I mean, you've put like a time code in it, so people are starting 39 minutes in. But
what? Come on, YouTube.
Or maybe you didn't. Maybe I just started watching it, and YouTube remembered where I was. Let me try that again in a better browser. While you use shameless.
Yeah, it doesn't say. Yeah, it doesn't say. It usually tells you like a.
Yeah, you're right.
Time
You're right.
Okay. Wow, Richard.
I just scared you for no reason.
Yes. So this episode will still be available on Twitch for 2 weeks, and then it'll disappear. But in that time, I will post it to YouTube. So we have a full category of playlists for all of our past episodes for all of our different seasons. You can go check them out there. You can see our past seasons of Waypoints. You can see our Here Expedition content, AWS, Azure. We've got lots of content over on YouTube, and specific kind of tutorial videos from our developers and our evangelists over on YouTube. So check those out. We've got. We also have a. Why am I typing over there? I can type right here. I've got a 2 computer setup that is great, but then I lose myself. Okay. We also have a Slack channel. So if you joined this episode late, or if you're watching after the fact and you have questions, you can head over to Slack and post your questions there. We also share before we go live in case you want to know ahead of time. But you should also follow our Twitch channel so you can get notifications when we go live directly from us when it happens. And I put in a little notifications like, hey, we're doing Waypoints today. Come join us. We're doing office hours. Come join us. So that's a benefit. You get a special message from me each time. What else? We got I post our social channels. Okay, Twitter.
Okay.
We also all share Richard's Twitter. There it is, spelled correctly. So if you want to comment on his garage door opener this time, you can go head over to Twitter and do that.
I'm gonna take a picture of that and post it on Twitter afterwards because apparently I can impress people with my garage door opener.
Yeah. As for upcoming episodes, we've got a episode of Home Office Hours this week, as we do every single week on Thursday at 8:30 a.m. Pacific Time, 5:30 p.m. CEST. Peppy Jew says, bravo, thanks for the session. Thank you. Thanks for joining. Yes. And then our next Waypoints episode 3, will be on... where did I go? I lost my spot. Come on, calendar. It's on the 25th. So 2 weeks from today, 25th at the same time as today, Monday the 25th.
Yeah, I always like this because then I think it's 2 weeks. I have plenty of time to write the episode. And then at some point I'm like, wait, this Monday? And I start furiously writing code. So
It's we if as our viewers, let us know if this time slot of like a Monday at this time is good, or maybe if we should push harder to change the date for future seasons or episodes or shows. Let us know if this time works for you, if it's good for you. This is a scheduling
nightmare is the word that Peter is looking for but does not want to say in public. So I'll just do it for him. Mostly a scheduling nightmare because of time zones, because he is in Seattle and I am in Berlin, and
there's about
I have
20,000
I have to
other
work
things
late.
that
He
happen
has
at
to
the same
work
time.
early, and it's also because big parts of our team are both in Seattle and Berlin. This is like the only slot where we can even have meetings.
Mm-hmm.
So nightmare. But we do it for you, and it's totally worth it.
Yeah. So yes, in 2 weeks on Monday, we'll have another episode of Waypoints. So join us then, and follow us on Twitter so you can see upcoming episodes and whatever we'll be covering there.
Can I do a shameless plug?
Yes, do a shameless plug. I was going to ask.
I'm going to post a link to a blog post because Sina, our brand new developer evangelist, who you met recently in Home Office Hours, has written her first blog post on how to create a WKT file and what the heck a WKT file is, and it's really nice.
Perfect, because I
and
have no idea.
You should go read it.
Nice. Awesome. Nothing else? I think that's it. Oh, yeah. eDestroyer says that your garage door opener is on point.
Yeah, like I said, follow me on Twitter for more pictures of my garage door. I promise I will post multiple pictures from different angles.
Garage door content coming up.
And I have a sense that it'll show up on Twitter more frequently in the future, so it's definitely worth following me just for that.
And hopefully on Twitch. I don't want to.
Okay. I'll bring it back for Home Office Hours as well. In fact, it works from my office. The range is enough that I can open my garage from here. So
there? Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I will open my garage and close it live for you on Home Office Hours.
Perfect. All right. Well, I think that's it from us today. If you have seen our past episodes, we usually try to raid a fellow science and technology developer. Usually try to focus on educational content, people that are trying to teach others things, since that's what we do. I'm going to start on Layla Codes It. She's working with Twilio right now, doing some functions in, I think, time-based triggers. Also a fellow science and technology streamer on Twitch. So go check her out. And that's it for us today. And we'll see you next time.
Thursday.
See you Thursday.
Yeah. Bye-bye.